So with that first batch of UFO files that was released, people looked at that as a big nothing burger. No one was really impressed by it. But I'm getting reports that there's much more on the way. So there's reports of the secret meeting that took place between government officials and pastors around the country. And they were invited to this meeting, allegedly. And in this meeting, they were told some very disturbing information about UFOs and aliens. And they're saying that there's going to be some information on the way that's going to shake the very foundations of the church. So I guess this meeting was intended to give the pastors a heads up that when this information comes out, there's going to be a lot of people that might lose their faith, and they're preparing them to make sure that your congregation understands what's on the way. Now, I'm being told that in this meeting, they didn't really reveal everything to them. They just kind of let them know to prepare for what's to come. But they did give them some information about these so-called aliens that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. So stay tuned for that. But first, let's start off from the beginning of all this. So this all started with the release of the UFO files. And from what I understand is this was just the first batch. That's why it was so unimpressive. It was intended to be unimpressive, as what I'm hearing, is to prepare the country for what's to come. So they wanted to kind of slow walk it and show you some stuff and get people ready, because if they were to release what they're about to release, I guess within the next, I would say, several months, you would think there's no real time frame announced that's been official. So the thing is, they've already confirmed that there's many more files to be released. So that's the one thing we do know. So I would think that within the next year or so, within the next even couple months, even perhaps, we're going to be getting a lot more information. So the thing is about this first batch, though, when I was looking at this first batch and analyzing the footage, I saw this one footage of this star looking thing, and I was like, okay, this is definitely a target. You know, like on a surveillance camera, they might want to target where the camera wants to look, and I was thinking that's what that was, but it turns out that wasn't a target. They're saying that this was actually a UFO. Let's check this out.
A trove of images showing decades of unidentified objects is sparking curiosity among starry-eyed enthusiasts. The Pentagon releasing photos, videos, and reports of some 400 unresolved UFO sightings from the past 80 years, including this infrared video from 2013 taken somewhere in the Middle East by the U.S. military. It appears to show a star-shaped object flying erratically and leaving a trail behind.
And so that threw me off for real, that they're saying this was not a target. It's not a video editing tool on the camera. They're saying this was actually a UFO, this star-looking thing. So that was pretty interesting, wasn't it? I mean, what type of footage is this? This is like the most kind of insane UFO footage I've probably seen in a while. So I found that pretty interesting. So with this UFO stuff being released, I mean, look, there's a UFO scientists that have gone missing, people that have been researching on UFOs, like David Wilcock. There's been disturbing things happening to people like that. And so it looks like this is all leading up to something major, perhaps coming soon with this alien disclosure rollout. Now they're even saying with Steven Spielberg, they're saying his new movie, the Disclosure Day movie, they're saying this is actually based on intel and inside information, this movie. So they're saying there's a lot of clues in this movie, and that this is part of the rollout and how they're going to announce what's to come. So as far as this meeting with the pastors and with them being debriefed about the upcoming UFO announcements and alien announcements, check out what this pastor had to say.
And I'm not going to go into great detail, but there were a large number of pastors that had been invited to go to a certain state to hear some men in the United States government and others share with them a concern that they had. And this particular man, and I'll not name him, and then we may end up doing some teachings with him or having an event at his church. He has a great church. But he said, Perry, what they're about to release, from what we're hearing, there's going to be a release concerning aliens and concerning unidentified flying object spacecraft, that some of the people who were in the meeting were telling us as pastors, you need to prepare your people and you need to get ready to answer them for what you're about to hear being released. And some of it has to do with crafts that have been discovered that are not allegedly a part of our planet, and the materials they're made of are not a part of our planet. Very strange reptilian-looking creatures, and other things that almost sound like something out of a sci-fi movie or an Orson Welles book. And so here's what he was sharing with me. We discussed a little bit, what are these things that are appearing? Steven Spielberg is about to do a movie, and he's basing it on some of what I've been told, the information that he's come across, that he's had research presented to him. So it's like a sci-fi movie, but it's not a sci-fi movie. Now, I want to say this. I want you to listen to me very carefully what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is going to be a little bit controversial.
And so, yeah, I mean, basically, they're saying that these pastors were warned to prepare, and the part about what these so-called aliens look like shouldn't surprise any one of you that has been listening to my channel, because I've always suspected that what people are calling aliens is actually the fallen ones. And there's different types of fallen ones. So you'll have your physical ones that would be based off more like the Nephilims and things like that. Then you have the demonic ones, the spiritual ones. You probably have these beings under the waters, under the oceans. You have these beings probably hiding in caves. And then also you probably have these beings hiding amongst us and somehow being able to shapeshift, because I think that's what they're calling the jinn, is shapeshifters, right? So I believe some of these fallen ones know how to shapeshift and blend in amongst society. I believe that these beings have been ruling over society, and they've been doing this for some time now with the myths of Atlantis and the ancient Egypt depictions on the wall. You'll see some strange beings, and I believe they've been influencing this world for a very long time to this day. And they've been in the shadows and outside of the shadows over time. So there's been times when they have hidden, and then there's times when they're out front. And I believe what we're about to experience perhaps is the return of the Nephilim. But this time, they don't want to be seen as fallen ones or spiritual beings. They want to be seen as aliens. I believe that's where this whole alien thing has come from, is something they've designed and set up, and they're getting ready to reveal themselves again. And they want to be accepted though, and they want to be seen as alien beings from outer space. That's why the whole outer space thing, we're not going to even get into that. I get into that on my other channel, Feed Your Mind, if you want to see more information about that. But that's part of where, you know, people are saying this big deception has taken place, where these beings want so bad for you to accept them, and they want you to believe that they're aliens from another planet, and really they're the fallen ones. So look, I mean, over time we've seen a lot of alien information come out with people being abducted, and they're saying that they were experimenting on people and probing them and maybe even impregnating them, which sounds a lot like the Nephilim type activity, where who knows if there's hybrids. I'm hearing that there's reports that some people are actually hybrids, and some don't even know it, you know, is what I'm hearing from my sources, is that there's some amongst us that do not understand what they are. They're not human. They're actually half of the fallen. And so that's going to be revealed to them and they're going to start realizing what they are. There's going to be some strange things happening if this stuff turns out to be true. I mean, the whole thing about them looking like lizard creatures should disturb you and should show us what these things really are. They're the serpent beings, and it sounds like the beings that they were talking about in the Garden of Eden. The one being that they said was deceiving Adam and Eve was described as a serpent-like creature. So could these be part of the same? And how many of them are there? There's probably a whole lot of them. And with their so-called UFOs, that's technology that they have, and they're advanced, obviously. And I believe they're trapped down here with us, and they're not able to leave this earth. I don't think anyone can leave this earth. That's why people say things like, when it comes to space travel, they're saying all that was basically not real. So there's word that you can't leave this area. No one can, and neither can they. And they would like to, but where would they go? I mean, look, when it comes to these aliens, well, so-called aliens, they have been tampering with mankind, it looks like, for some time now. Maybe that's why this world is set up the way it is, where everyone's just kind of going along with the system and going to work and going to school all day. And, you get a little time after work or school to relax, and then you're right back at it 5 days a week out of 7 you're working. I mean, that's not even really a fair deal. Life should be not like this, you would think. I don't think it's supposed to be set up the way it is. 5 out of 7 days. Come on, something's off with that. It'd be more reasonable to have maybe 6-hour work days, and maybe 4 days of work would be a little bit more reasonable, maybe even 3. But I mean, I'd even take 4. That would make more sense, right? You get all the benefits and pay that you're getting now for 4 days worth of work and shorter hours. Wouldn't that make more sense? And when it comes to work itself and the way it's set up, maybe it doesn't have to be set up like that at all. Maybe we can be in more harmony with this world to where it's not necessarily a job you have to take on to enjoy life or to have society function. But then there's a lot of things that you got to really figure out when it comes to crime and stuff. So that's a larger discussion. I've had the discussion on this channel a few times, but we're not going to get into all that right now. The main thing is society being run by these beings? Have they been influencing the way our day-to-day life is structured? Have they been behind the scenes running this place? Are they involved in this place? Have they infiltrated this place? Like the movie They Live showed us, a lot of the politicians in that movie were actually not from here. They were so-called aliens, which we know are the fallen ones. So these would be the politicians and the people running the show. And then a lot of the technology we've been given, has this been influenced by them as well? The book of Enoch says they have been assisting mankind. So did they stop at one point, or are they still behind the scenes moving things along? And what direction are they trying to make us move along to? Is it what the book of Revelations was warning us about with the AI technology? And then you have the mark of the beast, and maybe one of these beings would eventually want to be worshipped like the Antichrist, perhaps. So look, I wanted to share this information with you, and let me know what you think about all this in the comments section. I'm going to leave a link to my aliens playlist if you want to see all of my research on this subject over the years. And so also make sure you like this video. Let's get over 100 likes on this video. Make sure you subscribe. That's about it for today. This has been Exclusive Updates signing off. Check out the Path to Success. Link is in the comment section and description box if you want to learn ways to be successful at anything you might be working on.